You're watching Notepad. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. I have a very special guest with me tonight because I've been meaning to speak to her for the longest of time. Here on the show for the first time is Suraya Zainudin, the personal finance content creator at Ringgit or Ringgit.com. Suraya, thanks for to come on my show. I really am looking forward to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. Very, very happy to be here.
Let's talk a little bit more about the business itself, Ringgit or Ringgit.com. What made you start this adventure of yours and how are things coming along so far?
Okay, sure. Just a short introduction. I'm Suraya. I'm a writer, speaker, and founder of a personal finance website. It's called Ringgit or Ringgit.com. And the story behind the website is something like I'm someone who is obsessed with money management, not money per se, but money management. So I have always loved reading how people manage their money, how they make money, how they save it, how they do budgeting, how they do grocery shopping, how they invest, all of those. I love it. So for the longest time, I've been spending a lot of time reading online content, forums, all the personal finance related side of the internet. And a lot of them, while great, they were not really relatable because many of them are not Malaysian. So there are some here and there, but many of them are not. So I decided to make one of my own, the kind of stuff that I personally want to read. And I think I was just there at the right time, and now it just took off, and now I make a living from being a personal finance content creator. So is the gist of the story, although there's a lot more like ups and downs along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Let's deep dive into that because content creator is indeed a sector of an economy that we will explore in this interview. Let's talk about the so-called ups and downs that you mentioned. What would be some of the key highlights if you think a person needs to think about going into the content creating industry? What would be some of the key highlights that you want to share, at least from your own life experience?
Sure thing. So one of the best experiences has most probably be like the joy of finding out that my obsession with money management is not an isolated case. So we know, like, we all kind of grew up with like, oh, no one talks about money topics, and it's even considered like I don't want to say taboo, but it's just kind of like a hush hush thing. How much you earn, what's your salary and things like that. So once I started sharing online and I see that people kind of like it and people love the transparency, it just kind of create that conversation. And I started just asking people a lot of questions, and I found that and it's really nice to have built this whole personal finance community where we don't judge each other, but like, oh, you should have saved more, or you should have invested more, things like that. It's just like, how do you do your money management, and the past that the progress that people make, we celebrate together. And people who admit that they're not being so good, we're like, that's okay, you still have like so many ways in order to improve. So I love that aspect of it. That's probably like the best joy that I get from the whole process.
It's bizarre because at school we learn about trigonometry, we learn about physics, we learn about so many other things that many of us do not use when we're an adult. Today I have to do taxation every year. I have to do balancing my account every week, but it's not being taught in school. So it's really down to the parent teaching the young on how to manage money. And if you do not have that kind of, I guess, exposure, you're really left tending to yourself. Do you feel that when you chose to be a content creator, this is the natural cause of industry to be going into, i.e., personal finance, content, creating content for this sector? It's just an insatiable want for it.
That's funny that you brought up math, because you know what, Ibrahim, personal finance is not math. Personal finance is psychology. It's about how you react to this system that is way outside of your control, right? So sometimes I hear people coming up to me and they're like, "Oh, Suraya, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at math." Like, math maybe like 1% of the whole thing. It's mostly about psychology, delayed gratification, and all of that. But I want to answer the second part of your question, which is about, like, we're not being taught about it at school. And I guess it is about the way that we are raised with our parents. And I've noticed that that's where our one's attitude with money comes from. It's mostly where we get it from is from our environment, and that means from our immediate parents or our family members or even our very very close circle of friends. So sometimes when people say that, oh, I'm not good with money, or like I'm doing this, or this could be better, I ask them back like, okay, how is it that what kind of like money mentality that your parents have been teaching you? Did they teach you about saving money? It's okay if they don't. It's just that you should realize it, and that you should find other environments that would encourage you to be in a to be better with your own money management.
All right. Suraya will go for one short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about personal finance and the creative economy. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. I have with me Suraya Zainudin. She is the author and writer at blog and owner, I suppose, at ringgit.com. Suraya, let's talk a little bit more about the creator economy per se. In the US and in many countries, we've seen the great resignation, people leaving their jobs following the pandemic. This is, of course, based on a lot of factors, but dissatisfaction at the workplace is among the highest reasons why people leave their jobs. When they do, they take control of their fate, economic fate, in their own hands. Many of them are turning to create the economy, and many of them are trying to be influencers or attempting to be one that is trying to monetize their activities online and elsewhere. Do you feel that the creator economy is going to grow, at least in the next few years, rather well, or do you feel that it's actually going to grow exponentially in the years to come?
Ibrahim, I people who are much smarter than me are saying that the creator economy is just in the beginning stages. Even in Malaysia, we're kind of picking that up. There are people who are prioritizing their mental health, and of course, as you know, the issue of wage inequality, income inequality. So people are just looking for better options out there, and this seems to be a really nice, flexible way of making a living. So I think it's going to grow definitely, considering the fact that there are just so many ways to make money online. I do a website. People do it from audio. People do it from videos. You can make money from sponsorship to ads. To you can create your own products, and then just I think for a lot of people, they have their own. By this point in time in the online world, you have spent so much time in the online world. You already know what kind of media do you enjoy consuming. So we call these, I guess, digital natives, right?
Okay, that's the point that I'm getting at. While they continue to find the sweet spot, either on the content that they want to create, on the platform that they want to display it, either, I don't know, IG, Reels, whatever, TikTok, you name it. There is that period where they still have to earn. Harking back to your own experience, do you feel that trying to find your niche, trying to find your place in the creator economy needs time for it to mature, and therefore you still need something on the side to make sure that you continue to be able to feed yourself, so to speak?
Mhm. I mean, even with people, the typical advice for people who are trying to look for side income or side hustle is that don't quit your day job. Do it on the side first until it becomes sustainable enough for it to take over your day job. And I believe that that advice is applicable as well for this particular line of work, being a content creator. So, I mean, it would make your life a lot easier if you have savings and all of those. But I actually know a lot of creators who, do it alongside their day job, and then by year two, three, four, five, they are making, let's say, hundreds of thousands of dollars or ringgit in their side hustle, and decided to go into it full time. So there are people who are doing it, as a side gig.
Now, looking at the structure of things and the regulating of things, do you feel that a serious conversation needs to be had when it comes to influencer endorsing products and services with that of their own opinion, unbiased kind of opinion? And how does this influence the market? Do you feel that the consumers need to know what is product endorsement versus what is, I guess, a product review, I suppose, and how do we monetize this, perhaps even tax this, I suppose? Or do you feel that this is still in the nascent stage and we're still a long way in terms of trying to understand this nuanced argument?
There are enough content online to at least get like a starting point with how to do your taxes. There are guides online on how to do income tax, for example, as a self-employed content creator. So there are things like that. There's also insurance or even protection products that someone who is self-employed can take. So on that side, it's kind of all right. But I want to talk about the ethics side of things, as you pointed out. And it is true that this kind of world, there's a lot of, not to say gray area, but it's very, very much unregulated. And at this point, it is very much up to the content creator themselves to be kind of like that gatekeeper between them and the person who is sponsoring them, for example, to protect their audience from making very bad choices. For example, asking them to get, to buy a really expensive product despite knowing that the majority of the audience is B40, for example. That I think is a little bit unethical. However, it is at this point mostly like on a case to case basis. Again, there's no kind of like a membership program or anything like that to join. However, at this point also, we are seeing a lot of um, people who are sharing their experiences in terms of unethical companies. For example, I belong to a group where we kind of share with each other, or that client, for example, that particular company is specifically looking for people who wants a sponsored article, for example, that looks organic, which means that do not disclose to their audience that it's a paid partnership. So for those kind of things, we, at least in my group, we share to each other how to, what different companies do.
Yeah, okay. So this is the part, right? When we spoke with Content Forum or CMCF executive director, she was very clear on having to regulate this element. I don't know whether Content Forum actually knows how to yet. In fact, if you look at other markets around the world, they try with a sticker saying that this is branded content and stuff like that, but it still is trying very hard to stamp this out, or at least try to alert the consumer that one is the other and another one is organic. Do you feel that if more transparency is brought to the market, it's actually beneficial not just for the consumers who consume these kind of types of content and media, but it also helps you guys, the content creators, to be able to see what can be monetized and see what can be done organically. Do you feel that it's beneficial for both sides to see this better regulated when it comes to consumer awareness?
I believe that at the end of the day, you can do as many protection for the consumer, but media literacy is something that I really want to push forward. It's the same kind of example that you would give to how, financial institutions in Malaysia is doing to protect consumers against financial scams, right? They're doing all they can to regulate all unlicensed financial companies, in Malaysia. Um, However, they are also at the same time concurrently educating the masses about like this is how you identify scams, and this is how they would try and approach you. Like don't be a what do you call it, like a bank account mule. So I think that it has to come hand in hand. The very nature of the content creator economy is makes it very, very hard to regulate. While I am pro regulation, it is extremely hard for the simple reason that how it works is that it's you tweet something is instantly out, and that's kind of the appeal to it. And at the same time, all these platforms, most of them are located overseas, so that's that, how do you keep something like that accountable? The Western market, who are in many ways more advanced with things like this than we are, even they are struggling. So I think that in the Malaysian context, it will take some time until that happens. So as of right now, it is pretty much mostly self-regulation. Although I would love to work together with Content Forum and see what kind of efforts that they're doing and promote what they want to do in terms of educating the public about being more aware of and be just more media literate. in a sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think closer collaboration, not just with Content Forum, but all the other stakeholders involved, is actually quite important. One more break before we continue our conversation with Suraya Zainudin of ringgit.com. Welcome back. This is Notepad. I have with me Suraya of ringgit.com. Let's talk a little bit more about the content itself. We've spoken about the industry, we've spoken about your background a little bit and your business. Let's talk a little bit about the content. A quick read through the website. You cover a whole range of topics, but it's basically within the same theme of how to, I guess, maximize your dollar or maximize your ringgit. You talk about trying to spend wisely during a trip. You speak about how to approach ETFs in this sense, why it invest, so many other things. Do you find it tricky trying to zoom in on a particular topic at any given day, or do you have something scheduled or planned out so that you can help your followers and your readers to understand the whole landscape of financial literacy?
The answer to that is yes and yes. So I both find it fun and also tricky at the same time. But that's the what do you call it? That's the I get into like the flow state all the time when I do this type of work. So it's challenging enough for me to find it exciting even on a day-to-day basis. Yet it is just like fun enough so that I still get very, very excited about doing what I do. Um, in terms of the content, I go through the whole process, and this is something that a content creator learns along the way. So you might have like a list of say 50 or even 100 content ideas, and then you go through the whole process of finding out which ones do I think is fun and which one actually the audience wants to read, and kind of like have a nice balance between the two, because something that I want to read is not necessarily something that the audience wants to read, and if no one wants to read it, then what's the point? So it has to be and then the whole content creation process starts, and then there's the editing, and then there's the optimizing. So it's actually a really long process, and then let's say one article, it would take me a few days up to like a week to finish. So it's not a like just type and publish. It's a whole process behind it.
And within that whole process behind it, I'm sure you also track the productivity or the popularity of a particular posting or a particular story. How do you ensure that things are relevant, but at the same time, you get a lot of eye views on that?
uh, use a lot of data analytic tools to find out whether or not a content is doing well or not. There's a process before and kind of after. So the before side is that you look at certain keywords and see, okay, is this like something that people search for in Google or in social media, for example? And I also do idea validation where I do it via Twitter. A lot of the time I would tweet out about certain topics, and then if there's a lot of engagement, I say, this is something that people want to read about or want to find out about the information. And then after it's published, I can look at Google Analytics. There's a way to link up your website to Google Analytics, and you can see how it does on a daily basis, even on an hourly basis. So I can tell you exactly right now how many people is on the website. And then I just continually track it. There's like a post editing stage where you continuously optimize it so that it reaches more people, more stage. The kind of common digital marketing advice is that the time you spend to create your content, you should spend 10 times that in order to market it. So there's definitely a lot of things that I do in order to try and market it better. And I don't even think that I'm doing all that I can to be even more to get even more traffic. So something for me to be excited about actually.
Are you on TikTok, or at least is Ringgit on TikTok?
I tried, and then I tried TikTok, and then it just got very and then I just got scared of the algorithm. It got too it got too accurate, so I got scared, so I left it.
Oh, really? There's no plans to get back on that?
So far, no plan. So I'm concentrating mostly on the website, of course, Twitter and Instagram, and on also Facebook. That's actually quite a common advice as well for content creators. Like, don't do all of them. There's no way that you can do all of them unless you have a team. And because I'm a one-person team, there's so much that I can do for every single platform. So I focus on a few. If let's say I want to grow a team, and many of maybe like your favorite content creator, they maybe have a team of like 5, 10 people behind them, helping them do the editing, helping them to do they call it content repurposing, like taking an article and turning into a podcast, or turning an article into a video, things like that. It's called content repurposing. And that's definitely something that is a lot more business like. Right now I'm just having fun and trying to see where I can improve it in a way that works for my own values and what I'm comfortable with.
Okay. I want to spend the last few minutes talking about your tips and tricks for 2022. If somebody's asking you, how do I maximize my ringgit, or how do I invest, or how do I save for this year, what would be some of the key ideas that you want to share with them?
All right. I would call this like a personal finance focus for 2022. I have kind of three things that I want to share over here. Number one is that stop looking for that hot tip. Focus on the fundamentals, right? Everyone's
Just
searching
as
for
I'm
the,
asking you for the hot tip, you
yeah.
tell me not to ask for the hot tip.
No, focus on the fundamentals. At the end of the day, everything boils down to um, spend less than you make more than you spend, invest the difference. As long as what you do fits into these three things, you are doing well. You are. Don't be fixated on like what can give me that extra 0.005%. Don't get fixated on that, right? Number two, obviously, what you should focus on depends on your financial situation. Um, for many people, right, the focus for many Malaysians, the focus actually is to earn more. It is unfortunate that I have to say this because I do see a lot of people like the first thing that they're trying to do when they're trying to save money is to save more. However, considering the situation in Malaysia, a lot of people are in low paid jobs. You have no other option except to make more so you can save more. And I'm saying that because a lot of people actually depleted their emergency savings. It got wiped out last year. It got wiped out in 2021. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they suffered from flood. So I just want to acknowledge right now that different people have different situations to be in. And if you have a low paid job and your expenses are high, you need to find a better paying job ASAP, like as soon as possible. I know that's easier said than done, but it's very hard for you to budget if you are in this what I call a poverty wage. You can save ringgit a month because that's all you can afford right now. But one misfortune, it will wipe out like months, even years worth of savings. So there's no way around that. Um, the other thing that I wanna focus on, the last thing that I wanna inform people right now is that maybe 2022 is finally the time for all of us to collectively shift our responsibility from purely individual basis to systemic. It is it's very sad that all the time I see people blaming themselves for their own inability to save money when it is, a lot of these structural things like high cost of living, low wages, highly targeted marketing and advertising, things are beyond their control. And I know that we all can do better with saving money, with practicing delayed gratification. It's sad when people don't understand how mental health is related to financial health and related to mental health. And when your financial health is not strong, it will affect your mental health. And when you're in a bad state of mental health, you're gonna do some really poor decisions. So I'm trying to like summarize a very big topic, but basically it is almost impossible to expect people to think long term, to buy insurance for long term, to do bulk buying, when at that time all that person cares about is to survive today and feeling less miserable today. So I think that we as a collectively needs to stop like blaming one person for not being able to get out of a bad situation. We definitely have to get government bodies and everyone to focus more on systemic issues and focus on fixing it. It's a huge problem. It's not one person's job to fix, but I think collectively, we can at least like it's my hope to make a dent in that area.
Of course. Sound advice, fantastic advice. To read more, go to ringgit or ringgit.com. That was Suraya Zainudin, the personal finance content creator. If you've missed any part of this interview, just head on to astroawani.com, look for Notepad. You can also look for Ringgit or Suraya Zainudin. Until then, thanks very much for watching and goodbye. And Suraya, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Take care, everyone.